Liberals, hey, the only time in recorded history the liberals ever kept their mouths shut is when it was their turn to drink from the fountain of knowledge. Hey, just saying, let me tell you about this Democrat state senator who definitely didn't have any of that to drink. I got to tell you, she is an anti-gun advocate, and recently she was arrested with a 9mm loaded handgun on her person, and she said, hey, I can have a gun because my life's in jeopardy, but nobody else can. Typical liberalism, I got to tell you, it just ain't right, but they ain't right. They're way over there on the left side of the brain. It just makes you crazy, doesn't it? Because they're all the same, the Bloombergs of the world and the hers and everybody else. I want to be protected. You can't be protected because guns are bad. Oh, I see. I get it. Back to Bloomberg there. I talked about him briefly. He's again one of them. He's got 24/7 protection, and those guys that are doing the protecting, they're armed. They have guns. Hey, but you can't have one. Cars kill more people than guns. That's his latest kind of a way to get into this gun debate thing. He's talking about automobiles. Now, I don't get it. It doesn't make any kind of sense. But if you do want to talk about apples and oranges, and in this case cars, I know how to fix the car deaths, 50,000 deaths a year. It's real simple. Take the speed limit down to, 3, maybe 4 miles an hour, and nobody will die. They won't get to where they're going either, but nobody's going to die. That's kind of the same thing with the guns. It's not practical to take something away from people who use it for good reasons. Considering the frequency of bear attacks in Canada is another thing that you want to deport all of those liberal people, all the government people and the CFOs and all the policemen that don't have a mind, or if they do, it's a left one, put them on a boat to China. I gotta say, they're taking away rights. They're taking, they took, and people don't have the right to defend themselves, and there's so many deaths and maulings with bears, and guess what? When you're up walking through the park someplace, you're bear bait. That's what's going on. It's against law to have a handgun on your person or carry a long gun unless you're up in the wilderness, and that again just ain't fair. Hunters spend more than anybody else on conservation, and they're not being listened to. It's not very nice. Here's another email I got yesterday from the GOP, grand old party of Republicans in the US of A, GOP.com, and they said, Brian, Americans are upset with Barack Obama's presidency, the declining standard of living in America, the state of our economy's future, and America's political system overhaul. Because that is what's happened. It's been overhauled. And if Obama and his liberal sidekicks actually control the Congress for the last 2 years of his presidency, I think you're going to see some major, major changes to the GOP. Rah, and I hope you all win. You got to win. You got to get rid of all these bad guys without their minds. Winnipeg. Recently, some U-Haul team members made a very disturbing discovery when they were taking inventory of a delinquent storage locker, and of course you don't pay your rent. They clip the lock, and in they go, and they found 4 babies, 4 children, the bodies of them, and they called the police, and of course it's now being investigated by the child abuse units in Winnipeg, and that's a disturbing thing. I remember 20 years ago, probably, I owned a storage place that had, I don't remember, probably 400 storage units, and there was a young girl who went missing, and I instructed my employees to cut every lock if they're unable to get a hold of the owners and look in there just in case, and they did that, and most people were very understanding, the ones that couldn't be contacted, but there were a couple that said, how dare you break in, even when it was explained to them. I'm digressing, but just for your information, don't you know. Here, to end this today, a database. It's a new thing that they just recently did in New York. It's a database of New Yorkers deemed too mentally unstable to carry a gun, and has now grown to roughly 34,500 names. I didn't know that there were 34,500 politicians in New York. Hey, y'all come back tomorrow. We're going to have more for you from the right. See ya.